Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Sentry Data Dive Show. It is New Year's Eve. So exciting times. We are gearing up for the first event of the 2025 PGA Tour season, the Sentry, which is held at Kapalua. I'm excited. Let's get right into it, shall we? All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where earlier today I posted some research regarding the previous 11 winners of the Sentry, formerly known as the Tournament of Champions, some patterns that those winners all share, and the players in the field this week who also fit those patterns. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. I definitely fired off one wager that I really liked today to start off the year. I'm sure I'll make a couple more. But DFS-wise, we'll be gathering some pricing and all that stuff. So if you want to see those pieces of information, again, my betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, that is, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. We've been working together for a little while now. We're going to start continue to put some work out there together, content out there together. That'll be Wednesday night. At the end of the show, we'll have our picks, our top plays, pivots, some interesting tidbits of info for you all. So you really don't want to miss that. And you are really missing out if you are not subscribed to his articles. So make sure you're doing that. It is free to do. And go show him some support. Follow him over on social media. Lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all. Do you have any New Year's Eve plans? Would love to hear from you all in that regard. And then, obviously, why we're here for the Sentry. Who's your favorite? Who are you targeting? Who are you staying away from? All of that. How do you think the course is going to play? So feel free to jump into chat this evening. Make your opinion heard. Would love to hear from you all. So let's get into it. Let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2025 Sentry. And we start, as we traditionally do, on a Monday evening with the extended look over at Windfinder. Now, the tournament's not going to have any waves. No AM, PM wave with only 60 golfers playing. They're going to go in one continuous wave. So I'll tell you right now, there's really no wave advantage to really think about as we move forward this week. But even so, by Kapalua's standards, by Lahania, I believe is how you pronounce its standards, pretty moderate, light to moderate wind here. Maybe sustained winds into the teens, gusts into the 20s. That's pretty common for Oahu and coastal resort courses. So not a whole lot of wind in play, and it actually looks like it dies down as the week progresses. Thursday and then Friday it backs off. Saturday it doesn't even appear to reach double digit sustained, and then Sunday looks pristine. Very little wind, mid 70s. So we're not going to be looking at anything in terms of wind tonight for preparation for tournaments and wagers and whatnot. Of course, I always recommend that you keep on top of the forecast. Maybe this changes and we'll have to pay more attention to it Wednesday night. But as of now, seeing this forecast, we're not going to do anything with wind. So with that, we're going to move to Fantasy National and get a pretty good overview, maybe a little bit of a review from last night, and then we'll start really digging into some data. So one of the first things that I want to do, because we didn't do it last night, let's go ahead and take a look at long course performance. long course, at least defined by Fantasy National, as over 7,400 yards. Now, Kapalua is listed just under 7,600, but that yardage is deceiving, as a lot of the length of the course comes in the back nine, where players are playing down the mountain. It is not uncommon to see 400-yard drives from these professionals here at Kapalua. I think I saw an interesting note that I think it was 12 of 15 or maybe 17 of 20, some really, really high percentage of drives, 17 of 20 or 12 of 15 longest drives of the entire PGA Tour season came at Kapalua last year. So again, it's not uncommon to see 400 plus drives going downhill. So the yardage doesn't play to its full 7,600. Even so, we'll take a quick look at long course performance. And again, we're going to use the entirety of the 2024 calendar year. Yes, this will go back all the way to the Sentry from last year, but until we get some rounds and some tournaments under our belt in 2025, I just want to go off an established baseline, and I don't want to use the fall because some players like Matt Fitzpatrick, like Xander, didn't play much, if at all, in the fall, at least on the PGA Tour. So that's why we're just going to go with a long-term baseline here. Your top performers in 2024 on long courses in the field this week: Xander, Ludwig Aubert, Taylor Pendrith, Max Homa, Russell Henley, Alex Noren, Ben On, Akshay Bhatia, Thomas Dietrich, and Billy Horschel. So there's a look at that filter, but the filter that is going to be very, very prevalent in the mixed condition model, prevalent as we're looking at data tonight, is this easy relative to par. Very, very, very rarely does Kapalua not play easy. Getting a little bit cut off at the top of the screen, but this is scoring relative to par. You see how many years in a row it's been easy. The time at times it's been average has been some of the most absolute atrocious weather conditions. 2020, 30-mile-an-hour winds, rain. Even when all four rounds were considered windy in 2018, it still played easy. Kapalua is a place where professionals will go very, very low. So because of that, we're going to use this easy relative to par filter. In 2024, when rounds were easy, your top performers were Xander, Davis Thompson, Sungjae, Justin Thomas, Harry Hall, Wyndham Clark, JT Poston, Adam Scott, Taylor Pendrith, Ludwig Aubert, Mav McNeely, and Colin Morikawa. Several names there overlapping with the long and the easy. Xander, I believe Pendrith was long and on easy as well. So just some names to consider as we move forward tonight, that in the broadest sense, in the broadest terms, these players have played best on long and easy courses. All right, we're going to remove the filters for now. We're going to go to what I call the comparison course file. Long-time viewers will know what this is. If you're a new viewer, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you taking some time to listen to what I have to say this evening. This is taking performance from the past 5 years at all courses. Of course, we're focused on the Tournament of Champions, which actually I'm going to update to the Sentry. We're focused on Kapalua, but I do this for all courses. We are gathering the top 30 finishers and what they accumulated across all of the statistics. This gives us an idea on what a course really emphasizes. For example, Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, really emphasizes 200 plus proximity, long iron play. You have to be long and accurate with the driver, which is, you see this pretty big number, this 1.44. So this is a way to take a look at statistically what a course is offering or what is mandating of the players that are playing year in and year out. So as we see, Kapalua, and again, starting in 2023, we had 60 players. This right here is essentially was the entire field. I do top 30 because we get to top 30 at Eastlake. It was just a nice, coincidental, nice round number as well. Kapalua, you can see, really emphasizes the iron play. And this putting looks to be a big number, but I talked about it a little bit last night that Chris Kirk gained 11 strokes putting last year. If you take out this really large outlier, it actually does emphasize the ball striking. So, as I was mentioning, I really do think this is a ball striking course. That is what my focus is going to be on this week. Yes, we want to find some players who might pop on these Bermuda greens, considering this can turn into a putting contest with players going really low. But don't overlook the fact that iron play is very, very paramount here. Off the tee, maybe to a little bit of an extent, but not a whole lot, as I would have shown what its full field comparison was, but with the Sentry not being a full field, I removed that data point. So nothing to compare against the full field average. We're just going to be looking at Kapalua in a vacuum per se. So obviously we're going to look at a lot of approach. We might look at some off the tee. You can see here fairways. If we move to driving and greens, you see fairways actually a negative factor. That doesn't mean that players need to be in the rough. What that means is it's just not important or conducive. Conducive might not be the right word. It's just not an important factor for players who generally play well here. These fairways are some of the widest on the tour. Almost everybody can hit these, myself included, occasionally. Let's not get crazy. And everyone's going to have a lot of distance because of all the downhill run out. And a lot of times you'll have some downwind as well. So distance, not a huge factor. Greens, not really a big deal either because these greens are so massive, 700 square feet on average. So if there were anything in this page view, I would think maybe distance, but it's really not all that much. We might take a look at it, but there's not a lot here. We move to scoring, eagles, birdies, bogeys, and whatnot. Birdies gained is a pretty big number here. You do have a couple of lower outliers. You have one huge high outlier from last year. The Eagles have actually been pretty darn consistent, but this isn't really that big of a number. Like, for example, where we are next week, the Sony, actually, Eagles gained is a little bit more of an important factor than at Kapalua. So we're just going to be looking at birdies or better for this week. We move to par 3s, 4s, and 5s, and this is where a lot of the gritty detail really comes into effect. When you start breaking down a course, where do the top players really take advantage of the course, and what types of holes do they play well? You can see the par 3s, very little, 0.4 of a shot, just not a whole lot here. I mean, even the Sony as a par 70, which should emphasize par 3s, isn't all that much, but it's still, about 1.5 times its number. So not a whole lot in par 3s, and they're pretty evenly split out, as you can see there. So we're gonna have very, very little focus on the par 3s this week. Moving to par 4s, you have a 1.12 versus a 0.4 essentially for the Sentry. So almost 3 times the importance on the par 4s. Now, we do have one extremely high outlier, so that number does come down quite a bit if you remove that. As I talked about last night, there are no par 4s that measure 450 to 500, a pretty distinct, unique feature of Kapalua. We have 3 par 4s that measure over 500, and the rest are pretty short. Now, they will play longer because they are generally on the front 9 where you're going up the mountain. So, they're going to be quite a bit low. They're going to play longer than their stated distance. But even so, pretty even split across the par 4s as well in terms of where the strokes gained are. And then the par 5s is a 1. So decent, I suppose. And almost all of it comes into these 500 to 550s. About 2/3 of it. So you could make the argument that you would want to just look at the 500 to 550. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But there is the data for that. And then we'll close this off, this portion, I guess, with some proximities. The 200 plus would make a lot of sense. This isn't really all that big of a number. Players will get quite a few short irons and wedge opportunities just due to the length. I don't see a whole lot here in proximity either. But again, these greens are so massive, perhaps a little bit of proximity does make some sense. Don't see a whole lot here that is driving it statistically. So we'll keep all of this in mind as we go back to Fantasy National. And the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to take a look at off the tee. And specifically, we're going to take a look at off the tee when rounds are easy. So your top performers off the tee in 2024 when rounds were easy relative to par. Austin Eckroat, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, Wyndham Clark, Stephen Yeager, Davis Thompson, Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Kevin Yu, and Cameron Young. Hey, Darnell. Good evening. I hope you had a very, very Merry Christmas. Santa brought you everything you wanted. Hopefully you have been doing well in whatever endeavors that you've been partaking in, whether that's fantasy NBA, fantasy football, all of that. I really appreciate you jumping in to chat this evening. And a very happy New Year to you. NHL and EV probably nice. Very good. Hopefully those have been going very well. I know literally nothing about hockey, so that's what I got for you. And then I just had a good month off. Was preparing some stuff behind the scenes for 2025. Gabe and I are doing some content together, so that'll come out on Wednesdays at the end of the shows. So we've been doing a little bit of that, but mostly I just spent some time with family, some good downtime, if you will. All right, now after looking at off the tee, we're going to remove the easy relative par filter, and we're going to look at just flat out stroke gain approach from 2024. Again, long timeline here, but I just want to work with a solid base of statistics. I appreciate that compliment, Darnell. That really means a lot. I'm glad you take something from it, because I'm not always right, but I'm just I give you my what I think is a sound opinion based on my background of statistical analysis, and I'll own when I'm wrong. I have had many times of backing the wrong players, but you've been a long-time supporter of the channel, and it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's very appreciated. Well, I'll take the wins and the losses when I can get them. I have some good weeks. I have some bad weeks. I actually finished 2024 strong, so we're going to try to start 2025 off well as well. Your top iron players in the field at the Sentry this week: Tom Hoagie, Tony Finau, Corey Connors, Aaron Rai, Xander, Siwoo Kim, Justin Thomas, Austin Eckroat, Hideki, Ludwig Ober, and Victor Hovland. So make sure you really emphasize these players as you are moving forward with your week, thinking about any wagers, any DFS contests that you might enter. Again, I cannot stress enough how much Kapalua promotes ball striking in general and especially iron play. So really give these players heavy consideration in whatever endeavor DFS wagering that you are going with. And then finally, we are going to take a look at some putting. And we're just going to look at Bermuda. As I explained last night, Kapalua is very, very unique in the sense that while it is Tiff Eagle Bermuda, and we see Tiff Eagle Bermuda a lot on the PGA Tour, Kapalua is the only place that is slow, Velcro speed, Tiff Eagle. So because of that, I don't want to look at Tiff Eagle, and we don't have enough data to just look at Velcro Bermuda. So because of that, we're just going to look at Bermuda green putting. We'll do this a couple of different ways. First, in terms of just pure strokes gained putting, your top Bermuda putters in the field this week in 2024: Denny McCarthy, Russell Henley, Max Grazerman, Pendrith, Burns, Dietrich, Brian Harmon, Billy Horschel, J-Day, Davis Riley, and Sahith Theegala. And then I did a little bit of this last year, and I really want to go about it again, or bring it more to the forefront. Let's take a look at this metric. I'm on the wrong thing. I never went back to the correct page view. My apologies. All the compliments you just gave me, Darnell, probably right out the window, because we're not a professional setup here. It's just me, so I don't have the camera crew or anything like that. It's just me, one man working camera, microphone, and all that stuff. So apologies for the distorted page view. Hopefully it's correct now. What I was talking about, I want to take a look at this spike percentage. What this means is how often do players perform very well? And you can set this number however high you want. So right now we're just going to go with 1. How often do players gain more than 1 in a round when on these certain circumstances? So, for example, last year, 2024 season, on Bermuda greens, Davis Riley gained 1 or more strokes putting in 48% of his rounds. That's pretty darn good. So your top spike putters, 1.0 spike putters: Davis Riley, Russell Henley, Thomas Dietrich, Jason Day, Chris Gotterup, Taylor Pendrith, Sahith Theegala, Sam Burns, Denny McCarthy, Matt Fitzpatrick. I think that's 10, 3, 6, maybe 11. But there's your top spike putters. These players that might not be the best putters, but they can really light it up if they get hot. For example, we haven't said Chris Gotterup's name yet, I don't think, this week. But here he is spiking on putting, gaining 1 or more. J-Day has a lot of spike ability, especially on these Bermuda greens. And you can always set this number 1, 2, 3. For example, if we want to take a look at 3, like players who just go absolutely ballistic sometimes. Max Grazerman, 17% of his rounds, he gained 3 or more on Bermuda. That's asinine. That is video game numbers. Wyndham Clark, So these guys are the epitome of a spike, going 3 or more. So I do want to bring this, more into focus, more into context this year, as I felt like I had pretty good results when looking at this spike percentage, especially when tournaments can get to putting contests. I don't think I will include it in the mixed condition model Wednesday night, only because I'm still playing around with what I think is the sweet spot in terms of what this number should be and all of that. But I do want to provide you with that information that you all can see and use in your own judgments for the week. So we'll be done with the strokes gained. I talked about it with the fairways and the greens. There's really not much to look at here. You could argue to look at driving distance, sure. So when rounds were easy relative to par in 2024, your top driving distance players been on Chris Goddard, Vegas, Wyndham Clark, Taylor Pendrith, Obear, Grazerman, Cam Young, Jake Knapp, Justin Thomas, and Kevin Yu. If I were to look at anything in this page view, it would be driving distance of some kind, whether that's easy or on long courses. I'm just not confident that it's going to play that big of a factor. So instead, we're going to go to what I know will be a pretty big emphasis in the mixed condition model come Wednesday night, scoring. And we're going to look at scoring when it's easy. Your top birdies or better gained players when rounds were easy in 2024. Harry Hall, Sung Jae, Taylor Pendrith, Eric Cole, Colin Morikawa, Adam Scott, Davis Thompson, Sahith Theegala. Oh, I clicked on birdies like an idiot. Let's try that again. Hall, M, Pendrith, Cole. Don't think that changed. Morikawa, Adam Scott, Davis Thompson, Sahith Theegala, Ben On, and Ludwig Obear. So there's your top birdies or better gained. And you see, a lot of these players probably aren't, most known for some eagles. They just get birdies in bunches, which is what you have to do around Kapalua, especially when it's easy. So as I was talking about with players and, the top 10 or so in approach, make sure you give these players some heavy consideration, wagers and otherwise, as they have the tendency to go very low, especially when it's easy. Something else is opportunities gained. Now, an opportunity gained per Fantasy National, so FNGC's definition is a player has hit the green in regulation or is on the fringe within 15 feet of the hole. Your top opportunities gained players in 2024 when rounds were easy. Harry Hall, Wyndham Clark, Obear, Hoagie, McNeely, Ben On, Patton Gazire, Eric Cole, Chris Kirk, Sam Burns. So both of these are going to have some weight in the mixed condition model come Wednesday night. We'll run through the par 3s, 4s, and 5s just very quickly, as there didn't appear to be a specific range that mattered a whole lot. So your top par 3 performers, Xander, Billy Ho, Nico Echevarria, Matt Fitzpatrick, Denny McCarthy, and on down. Don't know. It's going to be very little, if at all, par 3s are factored in to the mixed condition model come Wednesday. Par 4s, again, you have none from 450 to 500. So they're all over 500 or under 450. You do have the one drivable par 4, but I don't like putting a lot of emphasis on just one hole. So your top par 4 performers, Xander, Morikawa, Obear, Alex Noren, Hideki, McNeely, and so on down. And then par 5s, where the professionals are going to have to really take advantage of this course, as most par 72s with 4 par 5s. Players generally take advantage of it. Your best par 5 performers, Cantley, Finau, Nick Dunlap, Billy Horschel, Davis Thompson, and so on down. All right. I'll take us back to the strokes gained page view in case there are questions towards the end of the show. But we're going to go to Microsoft Excel, and we're going to finish the show off a couple different ways. We're going to take a look at the early look file, which is players' performance at Kapalua the past 5 years. I only go back 5 years because a lot of things change. Players change swing coaches, like Victor Hovland has done, if you haven't heard. Not only on top of the broken toe that he has also switched swing coaches. Players change caddies, players change clubs. So I don't go back a whole lot of years because things just change. Courses change. I mean, there's just so much change in the PGA that you can't really get apples to apples comparisons year over year over year, or very rarely can you do it. So I only go back 5 years. This is performance in specific metrics at Kapalua, how they performed. So first thing we're going to do, obviously, we're going to take a look at approach. Who has hit the irons the best around Kapalua? No surprise, Tom Hoge, but Tom Hoge's doing Tom Hoge things here. Not very good off the tee, not very good with the putter. He's just been very good with the irons. He's had some middling finishes, it seems. Sepp Straka, somebody I'm pretty high on, and he started my 2024 off hot last year when I wagered him to be top European, and he hit for me. He's doing a lot of the same stuff, but he's a much better putter than than Tom Hoge. So Sepp Straka's hit his irons well here. Scott has been very good ball striking and absolutely abysmal with the short game. Justin Thomas has been just fantastic here all the way around. Anytime you get, Justin Thomas, close to field average with the putter, you got to take note of it. So there's something about these greens that he likes, but he's just been very good otherwise. Morikawa, even he's putting very, very well. I mentioned how Chris Kirk gained 11 on putting last year, but he hit his irons well. So there's your top iron players, so long as they've played Kapalua, because we have quite a few dilettantes this year. Speaking of putting, let's sort on putting and who's been the best putters. Obviously, Chris Kirk's going to lead that with only one try. Nico Echeverria has only been here once, but he putt very, very well. Eric Cole, Batia, guys who have played here multiple times and putt well. No surprise, Bermuda Burns. Sam Burns has been very good with the putter. Not very good at ball striking, but JT Poston, somebody else I'm pretty high on. He's had a lot of success here. He's putt well, and he's a lot better iron player than I think this is showing. Billy Horschel, a lot to be desired in terms of finish, but it is Bermuda. You got to think about Bermuda Billy as well. Morikawa's putt well. Siwoo, guys who haven't putt well. Keegan, Wyndham Clark, Adam Scott. Hideki has been awful on these greens. Russell Henley's not been good. Connors. Surprising to see McCarthy struggle. He's only played it once, so perhaps getting used to these greens will help him because he is a world-class putter, but he struggled last year. Riley. Hovland has been really bad on these greens, and he's played it multiple years, so there's something about these greens he just doesn't like. So there's your top putters. We're going to skip all the way over to birdies gained, and your top birdies gained players the past 5 years at Kapalua, so long as they've played. Kirk again last year when he went ridiculously low. Justin Thomas. Hadwin had a pretty good performance the 1 year he was here. Cam Young's played decently well here. Sungjae, another player that has had a lot of success around Kapalua. There's Morikawa again. Cantley's had a lot of success around here. So you see all these big numbers in the birdies gained. Again, I'm going to skip par threes. I thought about skipping par fours. Probably should look at it. Top par four performers. Again, Chris Kirk. It's where he made all of his damage. Did all of his damage last year. He did a little bit of the par threes, but look at the par fives. He was. XL is lagging. He was even. He was field average. I can't say he was even. He was field average on par fives. He just did a lot of his work on the par fours. There's Morikawa again. There's Cantley and Sungjae and Xander. A lot of people tend to gravitate towards Tony Finau at Kapalua. And it makes a lot of sense. Long hitter, good ball striker. But you look, He's played here 4 times. He's averaged a 24th. It's not necessarily the greatest in terms of performance for Finau here at Kapalua. Be a little cautious there. I would do par 5s, but it sounds like my voice is wanting to go. Such is the winter in the Midwest. Allergies are really messing with me, so I'm going to go on best average finish. And I want to share with you all a little bit of the research that I posted over on X earlier today. Now, this won't be all of it. If you want to see all of it, I ask that you go check out X. Because not only that, I provide you the players who also fit the patterns that I'm going to talk about. But let's first talk about the form of the winners coming into the Sentry. Okay? Don't worry about this color coding. This was me trying to figure out something, and see if there was a pattern, and there wasn't. But I want you to take a look. Chris Kirk, he played twice in the fall. Wasn't fantastic, but he did have a top 30. Finish up with you that. Hey, Darnell, thanks again for jumping in chat. Really appreciate everything that you had to say. You've been a long-time supporter. Really, really do appreciate that. Hopefully 2025 is fantastic. I'm glad to hear that things have went well for you, that you had a very, very Merry Christmas and have a very, very Happy New Year. I hope to see you on Wednesday evening. Thanks for stopping in tonight. But take a look at Chris Kirk. He had a top 30. Nothing to be amazed at, but he at least had played and showed some kind of form in the fall. Rahm, the year prior, top 5. He only played once in the fall, but it was a top 5. Cam Smith, top 5. Harris English, top 5. All of these players, going back to 2013, had at least a top 30. If you take out Chris Kirk, who is the outlier, they all have a top 15. So they had some form in the fall. They might not have played often, but they at least had played in the fall and played very, very well. So that was the first criteria that kind of popped for me. You can see the performance in majors. Chris Kirk had a top 25. I think one of them that I actually didn't get to post because I ran out of characters. I believe almost all champions of the Sentry had a top 20 or top 25 in major championships the year prior. I'm looking through, like Xander has a top. Yeah, we're in the top 15 here. So Justin Thomas in 2016 was pretty poor, but he seems like he's the outlier. So they also performed well in a major the previous season. Top 20, top 25 in a major. Let's take a look at something that I call the winner matrix. I apologize. I'm leaning forward as something is blocking my view of the corner of my screen. If we take a look at what I call the winner matrix, this is gathering a champion's performance at that course in the years prior to him winning. So you see Chris Kirk, he hadn't played Kapalua for 7 years. 7 years before he won last year. And he didn't have a whole lot of success beforehand. It was okay, but it wasn't fantastic. John Rahm had a lot of success before winning in 2023. Cameron Smith had very little success. Harris English hadn't played for several years. Justin Thomas has been pretty good here. So there wasn't a whole lot tying prior success at Kapalua, but what you don't notice are debutantes. A champion has at least played Kapalua before winning. Hey P, good evening. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas and you are going to have a very Happy New Year. Golf is indeed back. Hopefully things have went well in your world. I really appreciate you jumping into chat this evening, catching the end of the show. But what you won't notice are debutantes. So another one of the criteria is that a player has at least played Kapalua. Might not have had the most success, see Cameron Smith, see Chris Kirk, who hadn't played it for 7 years, but they at least have played it. So, we're talking about the Chris Goddard's, we're talking about the, some names are escaping me, the Harry Halls. It doesn't mean that they won't play well, not necessarily winning though. They're not going to, a debutante hasn't won in a long time, if ever. So if you want to see the full research, again, I posted that over to X earlier today. I asked that you go give me a follow. My handle is in the description. I want to thank Darnell and P for jumping into chat. Very much appreciated. You two have been long-time supporters of the channel. It does not go unnoticed. It's really appreciated. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas. And I hope you all out there had a very, very Merry Christmas as well. If you were not able to catch the show live, please jump into the comments. I will absolutely respond there. And be on the lookout Wednesday night, not only for the DFS Tactics show, which will be at 9 Eastern, but Gabe and I will be doing some content together. We'll be providing our top selections, our fades, some interesting categories, if you will. So generally pretty fun. Him and I have had a lot of fun discussing, working on that moving forward into 2025. We're excited to bring it to you to start this week. We actually debuted it at the RSM, but now that golf is officially back, people are excited for PGA to be back. Would be awesome to have you all jump into chat and interact on what you all think of our selections in various categories. Thanks again to you two for jumping into chat. Thanks again for all the support. Really, really do appreciate it. For all of the wagers you have made so far this week for the Sentry, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the Sentry, and until I see you Wednesday night, New Year's night, for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable. Happy New Year, everybody.